You're back on mute.
Recording. Okay, we're recording now.
There you go.
I remembered what it was. Many of them asked for smaller classes, to gather in smaller groups. That was a big one too.
Okay. So what we have done, because we just started recording, just kind of recap what we talked about. We talked about how surveying is really important. I will have the survey questions up on our webpage, so you'll be able to share. I'm also going to put this recording up, so that's good. Matt, would you go? I know it's repeating, but would you go over what you talked about before we recorded? What are you doing? Did you recap what you said?
Sure. So at Epiphany, we discussed a couple options with our faith formation department and kind of came up with the idea of saying, okay, if we can't gather in our smaller individual classrooms like we're accustomed to because of our social distancing requirements or capacity needs, then we just kind of took an assessment of our campus and said, okay, we have 4 large group gathering spaces, 4 different kind of halls or buildings that can accommodate several hundred people, meaning, at least 500. So we said, okay, with our, a few people were asking for numbers in the chat. If we have, 120, 140 students per grade, then even if we're doing a quarter capacity of them, they can all fit into one of those gatherings within the required, 6 feet distancing or spread out within our individual chairs. So we said, okay, well, we'll just do 1 grade per large gathering space and have the room set up with the chairs spaced out already when they come in, so they know what kind of they're sitting for and doing, and using either our staff or some seasoned catechists to lead the lesson for the day. And then it would also be recorded because we're going to be kind of alternating who's on campus based on those. So the 2nd graders would watch the recording of the 1st graders live, and then the next week they would be on campus while the 1st graders would be watching their recording. And then those who were watching the recording would have kind of a follow-up, the catechist would be reaching out and calling them saying, did you have any questions? Have you caught on to what we're doing? How's everything going for you? That kind of stuff. So we were looking at that, and that could span all the way through K through 12, and it would be at their usual times of how things have already kind of been scheduled in the past. The other thing we were talking about was just the fact that we know a couple other parishes around us that have done the Super Saturday model, covering an entire big idea together at once. So it's probably not our preference, but if it came to it, could see that would be an effective way to make sure all of the information is communicated. So at that point, to try and be nice to families and have everything scheduled on that same Saturday, we do our elementary ones from like 9 to noon in the morning and cover the 3 essential questions for the big idea, and then take a break for lunch and come back and do our junior high school ones later on in the rest of the time, and then they finish in time for mass. So those were just some of the things we're brainstorming at Epiphany.
Okay. And so a lot of people are having to just make several different plans because they don't know what's going to happen. They plan for one, in case state of Texas says that we can all gather. Schools, I talked to the Catholic schools office, and they're having to make plans, even though they've tried to wait for the Texas, for Texas authorities to tell us what to do, but they're not. Several school districts haven't planned their beginning date, so we're kind of in a flux. So it's kind of hard to plan, but the best thing to do is to plan for all things, like Epiphany's doing. One of the people who can't be here is Janice Berger from St. Teresa in the Park, but here's what she shared. What they're doing is working on at-home lessons for K through 8, and they're going to follow by family sharing Zoom. And here's the schedule. So at 10 o'clock on Sunday, they want you to watch Mass online. At 11:15, the lessons at home with parents. And then at 12, grade 6 through 10, families meet on with a catechist on Zoom for prayer, faith sharing, and possible activity. Of course, it depends on the age group. So that's what they're planning on doing at St. Teresa. I know that I also was given a call from Ginger at St. Mary Magdalene, and she's put her whole system online. So anyone can run. She has everything. She has the correlations, the lesson plans, a link to the ebooks page for the books. So if you go to their website, you can start teaching your child any lesson, any grade, anytime. And so that's kind of how they're handling it, so that parents can teach at any time. There's not a specific, link. You don't have a timeout or test or anything. Just kind of pushing it into the parent's hand. They're planning on having in classroom, but they always have this as an option. So would anybody else? Oh, Juan Carlos, how do I make you co-host? I can't see that on my screen.
If you look at my picture and click on the options there, on the dots, I think that's where it gives you the option.
Okay. This is make host. Okay.
Yeah.
You want to change
Or
host?
co-host.
No, I don't want to change host. Let's see.
This is-
It doesn't say co-host. It says either make host, allow recording, remove, rename. It doesn't put co-host on there.
All right, no problem.
Okay.
I'll keep on trying to answer people as well.
Okay. All right. Does anybody have any questions?
I
Does
do.
anybody else have a plan that they'd like to share? Karen, do you want to share yours again since we didn't record it? Karen Ann?
Well, I didn't really share our plan. I just shared that we did the survey.
Okay.
Here's the plan so far.
Okay.
For elementary, which is pre-K through 5, we meet on Sunday mornings. So we have added Wednesday evenings, which we used to have also. We're slicing our classes to 10. And in our school, they are because we use our school for classrooms, they'll all be facing the front with social distancing and desks in the classrooms. But we will gather first in the auditorium, where we will do an opening presentation and teaching that will be Zoomed or live streamed, so that anyone who chooses to stay home can watch that piece. Their parents will all have their book, so they can do that, then teach their child if they wish, if they don't want to send their child. So they can choose either option, or sometimes one, sometimes the other, as things flux in the COVID situation. Then after that gathering with social distancing, classes individually will be dismissed to go to their classrooms, where teachers will finish the rest of the class with them if they're on ground. And then parents come to the classroom and pick up their child anyway. So that's elementary. So we have the Zoom option already happening, and all we have to do is transition to Zoom in home and family, which is what we call it when they only do at home if they choose. For middle school, we have large group, so we are spreading them out in the auditorium. We're going to Zoom that also, so or live stream it also, so that if people choose to keep their young people home, they can do the catechetical piece, the large group catechesis, and then parents, and we'll have a discussion guide to do that with their children. But we may also have a core team member or two that wants to do it from home, and they'll do a Zoom small group for those that stay home. For Life Team, for our high school, we have an auditorium and we have the community center. So we are going to probably, this isn't in stone, but probably put our sophomores in the auditorium and our freshmen in the community center, and live stream from the auditorium to the community center. So the freshmen will be watching it on video, and they'll do the presentation piece, and that will be expanded a little bit. They'll do that piece, and then with social distancing, they'll go outside or they'll go up to rooms with smaller small groups, and they'll do their small group piece. Anyone who chooses to stay home can also join the live streaming from home, and they will have Zoom small groups that they join if they choose not to come on campus. So all of that being said, it gives us the flexibility to go back and forth throughout the year for all of them. That's the plan.
So it's a hybrid, you know.
Yeah, we want to make sure that we can be flexible because we really feel like there's going to be an up and down throughout the year. And so there'll be times when people want their kids on campus and times where they're going to want to pull back. So we just want to be flexible enough to meet their need. We are lucky enough to have the live streaming capabilities, so we can do that.
Yeah, not everybody has the live stream. And also, like when we were talking, when I was meeting with some of the parishes up north, you know, St. Ignatius has several large rooms that they can accommodate that. Christ the Good Shepherd does not. They have small rooms. I mean, they can have maybe 4 or 5 people in a classroom. So all that will determine how you're going to do that. Does anybody else want to share what they're thinking about doing?
I can, since you just mentioned Christ the Good Shepherd.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay. Hi. So
Donna Michelle from Christ the Good Shepherd.
our faith formation department heads are meeting this afternoon to try to hit the parts that we haven't thought through on this, but we too are going to do a hybrid type program. Sacrament preparation is a different deal. So this is just faith, ongoing, lifelong faith formation. So we are thinking of taking all of our registrants from pre-K through adults, and especially including adults, and dividing them into 3 cohorts so that we can rotate 1 cohort at a time onto campus. So 1 week we'll do this group, the next week we'll do the next group, the 3rd week, and then the 4th week becomes a flex week, a time to accommodate holidays and other things that might come up, and maybe some planning. When they're not specifically meeting in family units with us together on campus, they're divided into small Christian communities that can support one another and do faith formation either online with at least 1 or perhaps 2 Zoom sessions a month. We don't want to over Zoom people because they get tired of the screen time. But also to curate on our at-home page on the website a collection of different activities that they can do. So there are at-home activities, there's community service, there's catechetical prayer. There's a number of things that we would suggest and recommend, and that's only going to work if we constantly update that and keep it curated so that it matches the current big idea from the curriculum framework. We're really going to be focused on doing that. We're finding that some of the videos and things we're making for things like infant baptism, for example, we're finding that some of those videos could also work for parents of young children, or inspiration for high school students, or we're finding that we're not just compartmentalizing things so much anymore, but it becomes something that family units can do, and that they can kind of pick and choose from a variety of things that fit their lifestyle, their time, their interests, their abilities, so that it's flexible for families with special challenges, working moms, families with special needs children. There was something else. It was important too. Can't remember what it was.
Companion.
First communion is a separate deal. We're still working out. We have to be a little bit more intentional and specific about what we're going to require for first communion. A lot of that is going to be available online. A lot of our infant baptism is going to be available online. We just don't have the meeting space. Oh, that's what the important part was. We're going to take those 3 cohorts and subdivide them further into family groupings of families that maybe have, maybe all families with young children, or families that have specific demographics, or let them partner with each other. And then we're going to assign a mentor catechist for each group. So this person would be less the source of information, but more a person who is a mentor, a buddy, someone to call them a couple times a month, check on them, send them some love, make sure they stay connected to the parish, answer their questions, refer them to people that might be able to help them further, such as Rejoice Catholic Counseling, or if they need to talk to the pastor, or if we discover that they need annulments, or other things that they haven't specifically mentioned, those things begin to be surfaced. And they get an opportunity to talk to each other and support each other, which is making this sound really exciting, because now we're developing those small Christian communities that can continue to practice faith outside of the parish. Because the parish should be the school of faith formation, the whole parish should be the school. But faith, if it's not lived out into the world and beyond the walls of the church, it's not going to last. So we're trying to do something that's going to not only fit in their lifestyle, but be lasting in their lives. I think that's enough of a summary.
Juan Carlos, does anybody have questions on chat? I see that's like 27 chats.
Yes. Jackie from St. Justin Martyr had a question for the parishes that have put everything online. How are they doing with the families participating? How are they being monitored? Some replied about the online quizzes that they have, and she's still having. She commented, Jackie from St. Justin, that she's still having issues with families participating. Participation has been rather poor, so she's wondering what people are doing to keep parents engaged if you have tried to do everything online.
Does anybody have an answer for her? Because Ginger's not here, so I can't ask her.
Well, I know in the fall, in the spring, it was crisis time and they were all homeschooling their kids, and faith formation was not their priority. I think we may have a better chance in the fall, as long as we, like Ivana said, don't overwhelm them with Zoom and stuff, because some of them are going to be homeschooling their kids again. I think we have a better chance of them buying into a clear program and participating than we did when it was the crisis thing of the spring. That's just my opinion.
As far as attendance and verifying, we are in a storm basically. So we need to throw out buoys and throw out life support, but we can't force them to do it. Right now, we're just giving it to them for those who need it, those who want it. Now, sacrament's a different matter, but as far as faith formation, it's a matter of making it engaging enough and fun enough where you want to do stuff. I wish that St. Ignatius was here, because Amy did a great job with some of her activities. And also, Ivana, do you remember what St. Edward's had done, what Annette said? Because Annette's not here. Annette, are you here? I don't think she's made it. Do you remember what they had done that you could share?
Honestly, no, I don't remember.
Okay. What my memory is the fact that they had different activities and different art activities that they would challenge the parents, and the parents would put them on a board or put them on a wall, and they could share. So they made it more fun learning activities instead of a book learning. So it's day to day, like a project that your family could do together to teach a certain lesson, or make a prayer table and take a picture of it. So
yes,
make it
do remember
more
that.
interactive.
They are also pulling from not just one book or one program or one publisher. There's so much out there now. You gather things and have maybe more of a library or a collection, or curate a selection of things that people could choose from, while we have some recommendations at the top of the list. Because I don't know about y'all, but when the whole shutdown started, every day I was being bombarded by an avalanche of resources. It was almost impossible for me to sort it all out, much less to throw it on the website and ask the parents to do it. So we have to go through what's available and pick things and say, you know what, our family's going to do this, or our parish is going to do this for this quarter or this week or this month. And so that people don't have to spend all their time digging through to figure out what it is you're asking them to do.
Karen Ann, you had your hand up. You want to add something?
Something that's been big for us this summer in our middle school program is my middle school youth minister, like for the Feast of the Blessed Sacrament, and she's been putting out these on her constant contacts for the middle school parents, making food that like pizzas with the Sacred Heart, or little strawberries with things stuck in them that look like a Sacred Heart, as a family, as a way to talk about the Sacred Heart. Those food activities, and she found them all online. Those are a great thing you can add that a family can do at home, and then they can talk about the topic. So I just wanted to mention the food thing. And when you're talking about something to present, families like to cook together. Now they're doing it more. So I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I think giving parents ideas, the ideas that we take for granted, because we live and are immersed in this situation, parents don't have that. So giving them family opportunities might be a good thing. I got an email from Marie from Christ the King that Deacon was planning on meeting with once a week with students and encouraging parents to get involved in family catechesis. Deacon, do you want to talk about that in more detail? I know he's here. I saw him. I guess not. You have to unmute yourself. I thought I saw him on there.
Hello. Yes, I'm here.
Okay. So you want to go into more detail?
Well, what our plan was over here was to because I have quite a big class and limited space, but we would follow the rules of what the state tells us to do, and the distance and over here we do try to implement that it's a lot safer for them to wear their mask, make sure they're wearing masks. But as far as what we were attentive that we would kind of broke down, my wife and I, is that we would like to the first week we would have the older kids, which is the second year kids that are coming in, and then the second week I would bring in the new kids, the first year kids, and then we would break them down to where the other 2 weeks would be we would send out either some way, either Zoom or a website to create a website to where the children or the parents can go in and get their lessons, and they would do their lessons, and then they would submit them to the teachers, because the teachers would have their emails and all that on there, and that way they can that we can just do some of the formation through that. But as far as the sacraments, for sure we will try to bring them all into the classrooms, but that will be closer to their second year as we go into the second year. But the reason is that we wanted to do the first week, and then there's about 3 weeks before they come back, was to make sure that if anything happened with the children, as they say, you know, this virus takes at least 5 days to give you the symptoms, right? So that way we would know before they came back, at least hopefully it would report to us. That way we would know where they were in our classrooms. And basically we tried to where we could keep the children only in the classrooms. The parents, before they used to wait for them in the auditorium, but now I'm recommending that they only one parent, if they're coming with the children, to stay in the auditorium, because I would be able to separate the parents also in the auditorium to keep them separated as far. And then the children in our classrooms, what I normally had was around 30 in each classroom, but now with the distancing, I'm going to have to bring it down to the most. It's going to be 12 in each classroom, and that's the way. And in our parish, a lot of parents are not too much of a homeschoolers. They prefer to have their kids in church over here in the school. So we're still working on that, but the most concern of mine was am I still on? I don't know if I am. But the most concern was that a waiver of some kind for the parents to sign, because, you know, my most concern is the liability of not just the children, but also the church and the diocese. So that's one of the things that I've asked about, but and I've noticed that here on the Zoom group chat that they were talking about it a while ago, and they're still the diocese is still kind of waiting on that until what the schools do. So that's basically what we were thinking about. I don't hear you, Debbie.
Does anybody have any questions for Deacon? Okay, Doris asked, Juan Carlos, would you please read Doris's question?
Does anyone have a bilingual program? And if so, what are you planning to do for the fall? Has anyone waived or reduced fees? It's one of the questions from Doris. And while we wait for an answer, just wanted to respond to Deacon Tomas about waivers. Quite a few of you were asking about waivers. I have checked with Julie. She's in another meeting right now, so she couldn't join us. But yes, basically what Deacon says, legal department is waiting to see what guidelines are issued from the state of Texas, from the Department of Education regarding the return to schools, and they will take those into account. But yeah, the legal department will certainly be issuing some sort of guidance as well after getting those from the state. So just to let you know, everybody who has been asking about requiring waivers for families, just in case you didn't see the responses in the chat.
Are there any other questions, Juan Carlos?
Some questions are regarding the use of books. They're getting the sense that there's going to be some flexibility as far as using different resources, which I think it's been the case. I mean, we tend to use the same book for most grades, you know, for elementary, for convenience, but I don't think it's given the circumstances. Yeah, the flexibility I think is been there, and especially in these circumstances. Basically, the bishop, what he asked us is that we use resources that are in the conformity list from the USCCB, and a lot of the plans that we have as far as checking in with parents, sending them assessments. Are available when we are tied into those publishers of content that are available to us, Debbie.
Yeah, does anybody have an answer to, or would like to share the bilingual books that they use? There's a question about bilingual books. Could you please share what you use and what you found works well?
Okay.
We use Be My Disciple.
Oh, okay. Good morning. This kind of.
Could you tell everybody who you are and what the parish you're from?
Okay, I'm Beatrice Green with St. Cyril Catholic Church, and I work with junior high and high school. I've been wanting to do a survey from the parents as to what they need, what they want. Yesterday, Father Mario had a class with the Hispanic ministry, and the results that I got from the question I presented to them totally surprised me. This was not the formal survey that I was planning to do, but I was totally shocked. When I asked them, of course, there were only 16 people on the chat, but when I asked them if they were send the kids to classes, they all answered no. So I was total shock, and they had elementary and junior high and high school kids. So that started me to starting to change my mind, because I was planning to have them back. At least I thought the majority of the kids were going to be back, and then also having some Zoom classes. But now I'm totally switching into having most of the classes by Zoom and some of them live. I have a question for Matt. I know you were involved in the junior high curriculum, and also if anybody's familiar with the text. I heard that the Loyola Press Finding God is really helping out as far as the lesson plans and the homeschooling and everything. Will that be, and I don't know if anybody has any experiences on Finding God, will that be a good resource to use now? Because what Father Mario also commented last night during the class was, I really put a lot of emphasis on the parents being with the kids, attending the classes. That first of all, it was archdiocesan rule that if we teach the kids, an adult has to be present. So he said, Father Mario said, oh, okay, this is a wonderful opportunity for us to teach the parents how to teach the kids. So we will be working out with the parents and the kids. And I heard Loyola Finding God, it's a good source. So Matt, what's your opinion since you were working on the curriculum? And also when you were talking about Super Saturdays, how many Super Saturdays were you thinking about doing? Thank you all.
Matt, are you still here?
Yeah, still here, Beatrice. As far as which one we're finding out, I can't speak to that exactly. It's not one that we've used over here at Epiphany. I know it's been correlated to fit everything, but it'd probably be better to hear from somebody who has that specific resource in connection with their parish. So I wouldn't want to, just don't think that's necessarily my place to speak on it. I know it's correlated, and I know it's fit into the curriculum and all that's done and ready to go on the junior high level, but I've never actually used it myself. And then for the Super Saturday question, it would be 4 of them. So 1 for each big idea. So when they come for the first one, it would be, who is Jesus Christ? And the next time, how do I get to know and love Jesus Christ? That would kind of be their focus as they're coming. for each of those Super Saturdays.
Okay, great. Thank you.
This is Jenny McConnell from St. Edith Stein. I'm here with Melissa Bell. But I really appreciate a lot of the things I've heard this morning. I also work in Catholic schools and at the university. And one of the things that I've seen coming out, a lot of the things that you're saying are kind of circulating at all those different levels, but was like a 3-tier plan. Like was something I looked at yesterday that was, that some people are saying the state's going to call off all requirements. It's going to be something coming out in the next couple of days from the Texas Education Association that would probably impact everything about social distancing. So I saw a 3-tier plan that was coming out. That one is we're back in classrooms as normal. The second one was a hybrid of rotating kids in and out of school and different options like that, as well as like having Zoom along with the actual classroom. And then the third one was the emergency that everybody, should we get all shut down again, that we would go back to Zoom. So I just thought I'd offer that. And, I think the only other, just a couple other comments that we're thinking about is we went online immediately with all of our programs back in March, except our young children, they were online resources for at home because we weren't quite sure how to handle that. But what we found, and what I suspect from being at school as well, is that where it's required for sacraments, where it's required to get First Communion, those are probably going to be where parents are most willing to cooperate. Like we had 100 on our CIA, believe it or not, on Zoom for 10 weeks. And we're just now bringing them into the church. And I was surprised how many of them came, but it's like, they wanted something. There was something that was to be had. And then the last thing I'll say, it's the hardest work I've ever done in 25 years of education, to be on this Zoom through schools, through the parish, through adults, whatever, because what I expect I can do, I have to cut in half. And then I've had to cut that in half because they get bored very quickly, very, very quickly. I've just been my experience. I mean, things that I thought would work didn't. Probably the best thing I would say that I haven't heard, because a lot of you have great ideas, is the classroom dimension. You can break this Zoom down into classrooms. The smaller the groups we can get them into, the better. Like even if, I like the idea of parents and kids, that if you broke them into those little cohorts and little classrooms online, the smaller the group, the more dialogue, the less staring at a PowerPoint, I have found to work, a little bit better than me just talking the whole time. But I do appreciate all of that all of you have had to say this morning. I think there's some really interesting ideas going on around that can be used in a lot of places. So Melissa, I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add, but I do think it's just, I don't know. I mean, I think everyone's a little terrified of all this in terms of what to do, but we just do the best we can as well, I think, and just trust the Lord that it will work out. And as I see these people being baptized and confirmed this week, we had to do it over 4 masses, obviously, but it's still a wonderful experience for them, even though it's been a very long and kind of torturous one for them as well. But anyway, so thank you. Just wanted to make a few comments, and thank you for hosting this, Debbie.
No problem. Jenny, I really appreciate it. Matt, you had a question?
Not a question, but I guess another comment is something that Charlotte was just reminding me of, is the way we've been doing home study the last couple of years has been to put together packets already based on the essential questions. So they get a packet with correlations to the chapters in the book that answer each of the essential questions. We've used RCL, but I'm sure it wouldn't be difficult to do for either of your design publishers. And then they come back for a family session, kind of like the things that you've been talking about with different crafts and activities and games and such, to reinforce and kind of highlight the important aspects of the different contents. And so all of those have been shared with the Archdiocese. If there's something that you guys are looking for, ideas, or wanting to piggyback off of the home study packets and kind of see what it would look like to send those things home or have them follow up or be able to kind of do something tangible along with the Zoom lessons or virtual things that you've done. And then the final point was one of the projects our Echo Apprentice was working on last year was putting together what we called a parent connection. And those are on our website, but the parent connection has, for each essential question, the buildup of the targets going from grade level to grade level, so you can kind of see how it progresses, and the parent could open, and whether they have elementary, junior high, high school, or even the adult ones, to kind of see how it spirals and what the content is, and then some family prayer ideas and family activities. And that's something we'll be continuing to build on to do another set of this year. So just, again, trying to offer things that we've been working on that have come in handy in this kind of time of preparation that we're willing to share.
Yeah, we also have the ARCHGH PCL discussion page, and I really welcome all of you to put things on there. If you don't have the invitation, email me and I'll send it to you again. So far, we have close to 100 people that are on there, but we only have about 4 or 5 that are actually sharing. So if you have some ideas, please share it with everybody. Well, Carlos, do we have any more questions?
I do want to have Karen also share with us. She offered to share with us how they're handling the way that they celebrated First Communions, Karen.
Well, obviously our group First Communions from the spring got canceled, and we had 200 children. So, well, 193. So we began at the beginning of June when our masses were running. We have allowed families to come to any mass, weekday or weekend, with their children, and just let one of our staff or the people greeting them at the door, let one of the staff know when they take their temperature and hand sanitize, and we write their name down and we give it to the priest that is celebrating that mass, and they just go up to communion with their family. They can bring however many people they choose. We have 140 limit in our church right now because of social distancing. And so they go up to communion with their family. They receive First Communion. At the end of Mass, the priest congratulates them and everyone claps for them. Then they leave the property. That's the whole First Communion. Parents have really, we just sent out an email about we didn't want to make the children wait. And at the time we did that, we didn't know what would be next or when we would be able to do groups. Since that's been open, now we have decided to do 3 First Communions with 150 children each. They can only bring 2 guests. That's 150 people in our church. And so for that one, we did a sign up genius. So all together, we're hoping that we cover the 193 children. The going to First Communion at any mass will end on August 1st also. So our last group communion will be that same weekend. So we're hoping to have everybody make their First Communion. We didn't want to make the children wait until we could do a big one. So that's how we've handled letting them make their First Communion without having to wait. And let me say, the parents who have come even to an 8:15 weekday mass with their children have just, like, it's been special for them. And the families have just been so pleased that their children have been able to receive First Communion in that way. So, and those that wanted a group are waiting for the group. So it's worked well.
So you're giving options. That's what people want, is some options. Matt, Sharon Stink is on the phone. She can't get to you. She has 2 kudos. Yes, that you had a flipped classroom, and yes, you had vertical alignment. So that's from Sharon Stink.
Thank you for sharing that, Karen. And regarding sacramental celebrations, First Communions, we've sent a couple of emails just reminding them that they're basically celebrations of the Mass. So we're celebrating as best as we can, giving options, following the different letters that Cardinal Leonardo has sent us, observing those guidelines. A lot of people are asking about adult confirmations, and I don't have any good news. Those have always been massive events, and the next date, as far as I know, this moment will be Pentecost next year, unless you have someone with dire needs. So if you think that someone has that type of a dire need, maybe getting married in another country or whatever the case may be, do contact the Office of Worship and present that case. I mean, that's the only direction I have. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like we're doing a January celebration at this point. Some people were asking about starting formation in the summer, and my response was, I don't really think it would be a good idea to gather live at this point, especially if we won't have a celebration to go with that until maybe Pentecost. So do look at, consider, starting formation again in the same ways that we're doing hybrid or not, perhaps in the fall. But as soon as I hear, I'll check back with the bishop's office, with the Office of Worship, but I don't have any good news on the adult confirmation front at this point.
Does anybody have any other ideas that you'd like to share at this time?
Just tagging along, this is Claudia at St. Michael's in Lake Jackson. Hi, everybody. I just love seeing everybody together, which is part of us being community, right? Just with what Juan Carlos said, we had an adult confirmation in Pentecost. Father had to ask for a delegation, and he was awarded the delegation by Cardinal DiNardo. So we were able to do that confirmation that needed to happen. So I know that can happen if it's a minor number, I guess. As far as the classes or the lessons, going back to regular faith formation, the key for us, I think, is simplicity. I mean, just keep it simple. This parish has a very small program, but even thinking in the parishes that I've served and they had large programs, I think that, I mean, keeping it simple will make life easier for everybody, especially the parents and the children going through stress that they might not show all the time. And I'm coming from a webinar that Juan Carlos offered, when was it, 2 days ago, with one of the publishers, Juan Carlos. And I think that he said something that's key, that not to assume that all of the parents are knowledgeable and that they will be able to do maybe the faith formation part of their children, and that we still have to coach them and guide them. So I don't know, I'm just keeping that in mind for this coming faith formation year. And also with some of the words that I gather from the different people that have been sharing. Someone, I don't see the name anymore in front of me right here, but someone said that maybe these sessions that are via computer, they might get boring. But I think that's the case also. If they come to the classroom and it's a long session, it can get boring. Someone else said, we don't want to over Zoom the people, right? Ivana. And also the using of a variety of resources. I think that in this point, that we can use a variety of resources. The lessons have been put together beautifully where we can use a variety of resources and not only one. And again, being open to simplicity. So I say, well, our option one is having the regular calendar, which is already put together, regular calendar for the children to come here to the parish. Option number two would be the first semester, having 2 different groups or 3, depending on the families that are registered, and making it a family faith formation instead of children. So it would work from 1st through 6th grade, where families come together and they're sitting at a table distance from each other, from each of the families. So let's say we can have 20, 30 families. We have a very large room facility where we can sit, families at each table, not mix them with anybody else, but just families. invite those children from 1st through 6th grade and do the essential questions as they are. I mean, the opening prayer, I'm thinking in including songs, movements like praise and worship, or just make it more lively for the entire family. And then go ahead and continue with the main idea of each of the essential questions, of each of the lessons provided. And if we do in groups, I'm just planning right now, group A, group B, it'll be half and half of the families. So group A can come on a Wednesday evening, which is when we have faith formation for those grade levels. And then the following day, Thursday, we will be able to Zoom with group B and have the same things. Or if we're able to do live on the same Wednesday, that group B stays home, they do it there at home. We will have also someone mention about having catechists following up with a specific group of parents or just family members, right? Following up with them to see how they're doing and how are they doing with the activities for those who stayed home. And then the following week, group B comes in and group A stays at home, so that they have also the feeling for both. I mean, we're still in the works of these. We haven't met with the youth minister and see how we can work this together also for the junior high and high school. But last year, answering Beatrice's question about the different resources, I think that every resource is good. I've tried different resources. Last year, I tried, probably we had 3 or 4 different resources for 7th to actually 12th grade. Even though I know that 9th through 12th grade is still not written, the lessons are not written for them, but I'm thinking it's gonna be very similar to the junior high, especially the and the big ideas staying the same. So I don't know, those are our ideas. I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Claudia. Sarah, you had your hand raised up. Thank you.
Yes, I just wanted to share, if people haven't gone into the pastoral center, Paul Convasi, I think that's how you say his last name. He's done some incredible stuff. He did a workshop on engaging parents. That's excellent. And they actually also put together a family program. A lot of their stuff is in Spanish and English. And then we use familyformation.net. And familyformation.net is offered in English and Spanish. That's an excellent program that provides packets for the families, and they also have you do a large group gathering, and then you have 3 weeks of programs at home, and those are excellent, and it's easy to slip into an at-home resource and those types of things right now. I know CCISD, where we are, just put out that they are offering a variety of ways, which I think we're going to need to do as well, that if some parents want to stay at home, here's what you can do. If we want to do classroom, here's what we can do. And we're looking at even connecting geographical areas so that people that are comfortable getting together could get together with other families that are in their neighborhood, and kind of encouraging that and utilizing. And even our Vacation Bible School, we're doing something along, like here's the resources, and asking parents if they would be willing to us to give a list of all the people who are doing Vacation Bible School, so people can, if they want, call one another. So.
Thanks, Sarah. Appreciate it. I do want to address before we go, because we're getting close to the 1 hour mark. Would like to address the fact that there's a lot of questions about the student confirmations. You'll have to ask the OA's office that. I have no idea. I know that some of the seniors are going off to college. That is a valid question, and you need to ask the youth office, the OA. They're the ones that would actually know. And then their question was about numbers, about those who've registered so far. What do the numbers look like? Because we've heard from some people who said that, you know, people will do. They don't want to. What was it? Christ the King said we don't want to drop in our kids off. Yet at St. Ignatius, they want to drop their kids off. So the survey is very important. So Karen, you're waving your hand. Oh, you're fine. Okay, so does anybody want to share about the numbers if they have started the registration yet and what the numbers look like? Nothing. Okay. Are there any more questions before we go?
We started registration. We normally do back in March because we normally also have a summer session.
Molly, will you tell them what parish you're from?
Yes, I'm from St. Maximilian, Colby. And we're a relatively small parish, and our I wouldn't doubt that in a lot of parishes it's the same, that we have a lot of last minute signups and stuff like that, but we usually have an okay number early, some regulars, so to speak. And yeah, it's way down. It's much, I expected it to be a little bit more, a little better, based on people being hopeful. I mean, we're hearing more about, we're in the Cy-Fair School District. We're hearing more about what the school district is planning there, although they're still very flexible and that kind of thing. But no, a lot of people are still very much like not signing up yet. They're just not ready. So yeah, we have very, very few signups right now.
We're in a case. We are in a case of not knowing, and I think the not knowing is what's causing people. I mean, even if some of the school districts haven't put dates out yet, they don't know when they're going to start or how they're going to start or whether they're going to. I was listening to the news, and the superintendent at Fort Bend said that they're not knowing how they're going to do it. They think it's going to be some kind of hybrid. They're not sure how they're going to have the classes. So everyone's in a state of not knowing. So I think the best thing is, like Julie Levins said, plan for everything. Have a all scenario type of planning. Plan for being in the classroom. Plan in being having a hybrid. And there's going to be those who love to teach their kids, and they want to start doing it, full time. But we need to be. I think the word someone used was flexible. We need to be flexible. We need to be pastoral. Remember, we need to show them the love of Christ and have them fall in love with Christ before we beat programs down their throat. This is a time that we just need to, really be heartful in our mannerisms and what we're doing. And I really appreciate everyone's comments. Hopefully this was helpful to you. And if you have when you do your plans, please load them up on ARCHGH.org. Or the chat platform, or send them to me if you don't know how, and I'll post them for you so we can share with one another. Does anybody else need to say something before we leave? Before I do a final prayer? We're good? All right. Well, may God bless you. May God breathe his Holy Spirit on you. Thank you so much, Lord, for being with us. Help us share that love and insight as we minister to these parents. You helped the apostles in the storm. We're in the storm of COVID. Please, Lord, be with us and guide us to safety. In Jesus' name, amen. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Thank you, everyone. God bless.